It's 10:15 on a quiet Tuesday morning. A man is about to walk into one of the most exclusive investment firms in the city.
It's 10:15 on a quiet Tuesday morning. A man walks into one of the most exclusive investment firms in the city. The receptionist barely glances up. He's wearing a faded navy polo shirt, a pair of well-worn jeans, and sneakers that have clearly been repaired more than once. There's no luxury watch on his wrist, no designer belt, no expensive cologne announcing his arrival. To everyone in the waiting room, he looks completely ordinary. A young businessman sitting nearby looks up for a moment, then goes right back to scrolling through his phone. He quietly assumes the man is in the wrong building. A few minutes later, something unexpected happens. The firm's senior partner walks out personally. He smiles warmly, reaches out his hand, and says, "It's good to see you again, Mr. Harrison. Your portfolio crossed $18 million this quarter. Congratulations." For a moment, the room goes completely silent. The same people who ignored him just moments earlier suddenly can't stop looking at him. But Mr. Harrison doesn't react. He simply smiles, thanks the partner, and follows him into the office. No speech, no attempt to impress anyone, no need to explain himself. Because that's the strange thing about real wealth. It rarely introduces itself. It doesn't ask for attention. It doesn't need validation. And that's exactly why so many people fail to recognize it. We've been taught that wealth should be obvious. A luxury car, a designer suit, a mansion on a hill, a watch worth more than someone's annual salary. But what if the people who look the richest aren't actually the wealthiest? And what if many of the people quietly building fortunes look almost invisible? This is why many millionaires deliberately avoid looking wealthy. Not because they can't afford luxury, but because they understand something that most people never do. Today, we're going to explore why looking ordinary can become one of the greatest financial advantages you'll ever have. Why chasing the appearance of success quietly keeps millions of people broke. And why the greatest sign of wealth is often the one nobody notices. Because in a world obsessed with being seen, real wealth is often built in silence. Most of us grow up believing that wealth is something you can see. A luxury car, a beautiful home, designer clothes, a watch that costs more than some people earn in an entire year. Everywhere we look, we're shown the same picture. Movies celebrate it. Advertisements sell it. Social media magnifies it. The message is subtle, but constant. If you look rich, you must be rich. We hear that message so often that most of us never stop to question it. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Looking wealthy and being wealthy are often two completely different things. One can be bought in a single afternoon. The other has to be built, one decision at a time. And confusing the two has quietly become one of the biggest financial mistakes of modern life. Because appearances are surprisingly easy to create. A luxury car can be financed. A designer handbag can be rented. An expensive vacation can be paid for with a credit card. Looking successful has never been easier. Actually becoming successful still takes years of patience, discipline, and sacrifice. That's why appearances have become one of the most misleading financial signals in the modern world. And the cost of believing them is often much higher than people realize. Imagine two neighbors. They're both 38 years old. They both earn $120,000 a year. On paper, their lives look almost identical. But that's where the similarities end. Neighbor A seems to be living the dream. Every couple of years, a brand new luxury SUV appears in the driveway. Weekend vacations fill social media. Designer shopping bags become a regular sight. Dinner is always at the newest restaurant in town. From the outside, it looks like success. People admire him. Some even wish they had his life. Then there's neighbor B. He drives a reliable 7-year-old sedan. His clothes are simple. His vacations are modest. His phone isn't the latest model. Nothing about him attracts attention. If you asked most people which neighbor was wealthier, almost everyone would point to neighbor A. And that's exactly where appearances fool us. Behind closed doors, neighbor A spends nearly everything he earns. Car payments, credit card balances, luxury subscriptions, personal loans. Every purchase creates the image of wealth, while quietly postponing the reality of it. Neighbor B lives by a very different rule. Before he spends a single dollar, he pays his future first. Every month, money moves automatically into investments. He doesn't invest what's left after spending. He spends what's left after investing. It sounds like a small difference, but over the years, it changes everything. 10 years later, One neighbor owns expensive memories. The other owns appreciating assets. One collected admiration. The other collected freedom. From the street, their lives looked almost identical. Financially, they were living in completely different worlds. And that's exactly where most people get fooled. If that story sounds hard to believe, you're not alone. For years, people assumed that if someone was truly wealthy, it would be obvious. Surely millionaires lived behind massive gates. Surely they drove exotic cars. Surely they wore designer labels from head to toe. That assumption feels logical. The problem is, it isn't always true. Years ago, researchers began asking a simple question. If there are really millions of millionaires, where are they? Why don't we see them everywhere? One of the people who spent years searching for that answer was Thomas J. Stanley, co-author of The Millionaire Next Door. What he discovered surprised millions of readers. Many wealthy Americans weren't living in glamorous neighborhoods. They drove reliable cars instead of flashy ones. They bought quality, not necessarily luxury. And many had spent decades quietly living below their means. This is why many millionaires deliberately avoid looking wealthy. Not because they dislike nice things, but because they understand something most people don't. Every dollar spent trying to impress strangers is one less dollar working to build their future. While others were upgrading their image, they were quietly upgrading their net worth. And that's the difference. One lifestyle demands constant spending. The other quietly creates lasting wealth. Modern culture tells us to make success visible, but real wealth doesn't care about being noticed. It cares about growing. Slowly, quietly, consistently. Think about planting an oak tree. For the first few years, almost nothing seems to happen. It's small, ordinary, easy to overlook. If you judged it too early, you might even think it wasn't growing at all. But beneath the surface, its roots are spreading deeper every single day, becoming stronger, more resilient, preparing for the years ahead. Real wealth grows the same way. At first, it looks unimpressive. Monthly investments, an emergency fund, owning assets instead of collecting liabilities. None of those things earn applause. Nobody compliments you for maxing out your retirement contributions. Nobody stops to admire your investment portfolio the way they admire a luxury watch. In the beginning, the rewards are almost invisible. But that's the beauty of it. The things nobody notices today often become the freedoms everyone notices tomorrow. If building wealth quietly is so effective, why do so many intelligent people do the exact opposite? The answer has less to do with money and far more to do with human nature. Picture yourself walking into a room full of strangers. One person arrives in a perfectly tailored suit, wearing a luxury watch and carrying the latest smartphone. Another walks in dressed neatly but simply. They drive a car that's several years old. Before either of them says a single word, your brain has already started making assumptions. One looks successful. The other looks ordinary. We don't do this because we're bad people. We do it because we're human. For thousands of years, our ancestors had to make quick judgments to survive. Status often meant access to food, protection, or influence. Back then, visible signals could tell you who had power. Today, those instincts are still with us. The only problem is, the signals have changed. A luxury car can be financed. A designer handbag can be rented. An expensive lifestyle can be built on borrowed money. Looking wealthy has never been easier. Actually becoming wealthy still takes years of discipline. And that's why appearances have become one of the most expensive illusions in modern life. Now let's meet someone we'll call David. At 25, David lands his first high-paying job. His income doubles almost overnight. For the first time in his life, he feels like he's finally getting ahead. He makes himself a promise. I'm going to save the difference. And for a while, he does. But then the little upgrades begin. A nicer apartment, a newer car, more expensive restaurants, premium subscriptions, weekend trips. None of it feels reckless. After all, he can afford it. Or at least, that's what he tells himself. Then comes another raise. Instead of increasing his investments, he upgrades his lifestyle again. The apartment gets bigger. The car gets newer. The vacations become more luxurious. Each decision feels small, reasonable, even deserved. But together, they quietly build a life that's incredibly expensive to maintain. One day, David looks around his beautiful apartment and realizes something painful. He owns expensive furniture, but not his freedom. Everything around him looks successful. Yet missing just one paycheck could send his entire life into panic. His income had grown. His lifestyle had grown. but his freedom had stayed exactly where it was. This is the quiet danger of lifestyle inflation. It doesn't arrive all at once. It shows up one upgrade at a time, one subscription, one monthly payment, one purchase that whispers, "You deserve this." Until one day, you're earning more than you ever imagined. Yet somehow, you still feel financially trapped. The greatest threat to building wealth isn't always earning too little. Sometimes, it's spending every raise before your future ever gets to enjoy it. Now imagine someone else. Let's call her Sarah. She receives the same promotions David did. Her income grows year after year. She enjoys life. She travels. She buys quality things. But she follows one simple rule. Every time her income increases, she pays her future first. Before she upgrades her lifestyle, she increases her investments. Only then does she decide whether she actually needs anything else. To most people, it doesn't look very impressive. She still drives a car that's several years old. Her phone isn't the newest model. She isn't trying to prove anything. Some of her friends don't understand it. They laugh and say, "You know you can afford something nicer, right?" They're right. She can. She simply chooses not to. Because Sarah understands something that many people spend their entire lives chasing. Looking wealthy and building wealth are rarely the same thing. Every month, while most people are shopping for things that lose value, Sarah is quietly buying tiny pieces of businesses around the world. While she's asleep, those businesses are still working. People are going to work. Products are being sold. Services are being delivered. Some of those businesses pay dividends. Others continue growing in value. Little by little, her money begins earning money. Then something remarkable happens. The money her investments earn starts earning money too. That's the quiet power of compounding. At first, it feels almost invisible. You check your account and wonder if it's even making a difference. Months pass, sometimes even years. Progress feels painfully slow, and that's where most people give up. Not because compounding doesn't work, but because it doesn't look exciting. Real wealth asks you to be patient long before it rewards you. But if you stay the course, something incredible happens. One day you look back and realize the small decisions you barely noticed have completely changed your life. That's why building wealth often feels boring, right up until the day it becomes extraordinary. Because while the world celebrates people spending money, wealth is usually being built by people quietly investing it. And here's the beautiful part. Sarah wasn't trying to look rich. She was trying to become free. There's a saying that captures the difference perfectly. The rich buy assets. The middle class buys appearances. The poor buy approval. That isn't meant to judge anyone. It's meant to make us think. Every dollar you earn has a purpose. It can buy something that impresses people for a moment, or something that quietly improves your future for decades. The choice is yours. Every single payday. People often believe that wealth is about buying more things. A bigger house, a nicer car, more expensive vacations. But those are only the things money can buy. The greatest reward of wealth is something you can't photograph. It's choice. The ability to say no. No to a job that slowly drains your happiness. No to unnecessary debt. No to making desperate decisions because the bills are due. Picture two people who lose their jobs on the very same day. The first has been living paycheck to paycheck. The mortgage is due. The car payment is due. The credit card bill is waiting. Within days, fear takes over. They don't choose their next job. Their circumstances choose it for them. They accept the first offer they receive. Not because it's the right opportunity, but because they don't have the luxury of waiting. Now picture someone else. Years earlier, they made hundreds of small financial decisions that nobody noticed. They spent less than they earned. They built an emergency fund. They invested consistently, month after month, year after year. Losing their job still hurts, but it doesn't break them. For the first time, they have something money rarely gets credit for giving. Time. Time to think. Time to search. Time to negotiate. Time to choose. That freedom didn't appear the day they lost their job. It was quietly purchased years earlier. One invisible decision at a time. This is why wealth isn't just about having more money. It's about having more options. Because when your choices are no longer controlled by fear, your entire life begins to change. Maybe you finally start that business you've been dreaming about. Maybe you move closer to your family. Maybe you take a few months to learn a new skill instead of jumping into the first job you can find. Those opportunities don't suddenly appear because you got lucky. They appear because you gave yourself room to breathe. That's what real wealth does. It creates space. Space to think clearly. space to make better decisions, space to live life on your own terms. Luxury can make life more comfortable, but freedom changes your life. And that's a difference no price tag can measure. There's another benefit to living this way, one that's rarely talked about. The quieter your wealth becomes, the more peaceful your life often becomes. And that might be one of the greatest financial advantages of all. There's another advantage to building wealth quietly, one that rarely makes headlines. Privacy. The less attention your money attracts, the fewer expectations it creates. Think about it. The moment your lifestyle begins announcing success, people start making assumptions. Some assume you can always pick up the bill. Others believe you're doing better than you really are. Businesses suddenly have something more expensive to sell you. Scammers see opportunity. Even friends, without meaning any harm, can begin expecting more from you. Little by little, your lifestyle stops reflecting your values and starts responding to other people's expectations. And that's an exhausting way to live. Because once you're trying to maintain an image, there's always another image to maintain. A bigger house, a newer car, a more impressive vacation. The finish line keeps moving. And no matter how fast you run, it never seems to get any closer. But when your finances remain mostly invisible, something remarkable happens. You stop performing. You start living. You stop asking, what will people think? And you start asking, is this actually a wise decision? That single question has quietly protected countless fortunes. Because every financial decision becomes simpler when you're no longer trying to impress an audience. The truth is, most people aren't paying as much attention to us as we think. They're busy worrying about how they're being perceived too. The pressure to impress is often an illusion, created by millions of people trying to impress one another at the same time. The moment you step away from that cycle, you stop buying things for applause, and you start building a life that's genuinely yours. That's one of the quiet superpowers of real wealth. It gives you permission to live life on your own terms. Not louder, just wiser. And if you look closely at people who build lasting wealth, you'll notice something else. They don't rely on perfect timing or extraordinary intelligence. They rely on something much more ordinary. If you spend enough time studying people who build lasting wealth, you'll begin to notice a pattern. Not perfection, not extraordinary intelligence, not even extraordinary income, just consistency. They spend less than they earn. They invest the difference. They avoid unnecessary debt. And perhaps most importantly, they think in decades instead of weekends. None of those habits are glamorous. None of them are likely to go viral on social media. But year after year, they quietly do something remarkable. They turn ordinary decisions into extraordinary lives. Meanwhile, the world keeps telling you a different story. Advertisements want you to look successful. Social media encourages you to display success. Comparison quietly whispers that whatever you have, it isn't enough. But your future doesn't care how successful you appear. It only responds to the decisions you make. Day after day, year after year. Looking poor isn't really the goal. Living intentionally is. If you genuinely enjoy nice things, and you can comfortably afford them without sacrificing your future, there's nothing wrong with spending your money. Money is a tool, and tools are meant to improve our lives. The lesson isn't to pretend you're struggling. The lesson is to stop confusing appearances with progress, because they're not the same thing. Remember Mr. Harrison? The man who walked into that investment firm wearing a faded polo shirt and a pair of worn sneakers. Most people in that waiting room looked right through him. They judged his clothes, his shoes, his appearance, but they couldn't see what mattered most. The years of discipline, the quiet sacrifices, the countless investments made when nobody was watching. His $18 million portfolio wasn't built the day he walked into that office. It was built through thousands of ordinary decisions, repeated over and over again. That's the part people rarely see. Real wealth isn't created the moment it becomes visible. It's created long before anyone notices. So the next time you're tempted to buy something simply to impress people you'll probably never see again, pause for a moment and ask yourself one question. Do I want to look wealthy today, or become wealthy for the rest of my life? Because every purchase is casting a vote for the life you're building, a vote for attention or freedom. Years from now, people won't remember what car you drove. They won't remember the logo on your shirt. They won't remember how expensive your watch was. But you'll remember whether your money bought attention or freedom. Choose wisely, because the best financial decisions are often the ones nobody else notices. If you enjoyed this story and you want more timeless lessons about money, investing, and building lasting wealth, subscribe and join us for the next chapter. Until then, keep building quietly, one decision at a time.